since the topic we've been talking about is personal branding, I guess I would want people to understand that a personal brand today is I look at it as a shield of armor, right?
Mm,
You're building up an insurance policy on yourself. But the other thing that I can't stress enough is and I did this too late. I did this way too late. Is this is not new advice, but I think it's important to say nonetheless, which is you want to retain as many people as you can. People always call it own your audience. And what that means, obviously, is you shift the audience from whatever platform you're on to your own platform. So that could be a newsletter, it could be a community, whatever it is. Get on that shit from day one. Anybody who tells you, oh, I can't start a newsletter because I only have 500 followers, why not? What if you have 500 followers and they're all multimillionaires willing to invest with you? Come on, man. It's all about the right audience. So that is a very, very important thing. But along the same lines is, well, it's kind of hard to get people into your funnels unless you're actually being seen, which means you shouldn't necessarily be wedded to one platform
right.
because that platform can take away your reach overnight. It has
Mhm.
happened. It will happen. It's inevitable.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, a part of the Strictly from Nowhere podcast experiment. I'm your host, Justin Abrams, a serial entrepreneur in pursuit of wisdom with the goal of sharing it with all of you. And that is no different for today. One of my curiosities about building business is actually about building community. And it's something I pride myself on. I just love the idea of getting people together, especially in person, on a cadence, making people feel part of a system, part of a community, sharing ideas, because the next person you meet could change your life. And I just believe that increasing our surface area for luck, meeting new people, listening to new ideas, participating in new opportunities, man, that's the essence of being a human. And so I'm fascinated by people that have also pursued building community, building a point of view, sharing their thought leadership with the goal of increasing wisdom and helping everybody get to their goals. And so that's no different for today. And I'm inspired by my guest for today, somebody I've had my eye on for some time. When I open LinkedIn in the morning, Nat Berman is the first person that shows up on my feed. No bullshit. And so I just had to get him on the show. I'm juiced up about the content that you put out, sir. I've been a fan of yours for some time. We know each other from a couple of years past of trying to build some technology that you guys have successfully deployed into the world. We'll talk all about all of that. But Nat Berman, welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary. I cannot wait to unpack your zero to market story.
Appreciate it, Justin. It's good to be here, and may I compliment your microphone.
Hey, thanks,
I
man.
dig the colors, man. It's like an old school jukebox.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Color is definitely in my vibe, and it's a tip of my hat to my old EDM days. Now I'm a dad and really don't get time to go to the festivals anymore, but at
PM
heart,
days. Who's your favorite DJ?
at heart, I'm a Rufus the Soul guy. I still am. I saw Rufus before they were ever even anything. They were at Le Bar down in Lower Manhattan. I saw them with like a show with 10 people in the audience. And man, look at what you can accomplish when you just simply be authentic and can impact the world. So yeah, man, I'm all over the place. I got lots of different DJs, but man, I'll sell out for a Rufus show. That's for sure. How about you?
I'm old school. I used to go to Twilo back when that existed. So I'm an Oakenfold, Paul Van Dyke, Tiesto.
Nice, man.
So I'm into all those guys, but you know, it's it's amazing how big it's gotten. One of these days I'll get over to Tomorrowland, but not today.
It's on the list. It's on the list. I've had many a tour at Coachella. I've been there quite a few times. And it's hard to hold a candle to that. We have a couple of really cool festivals that are right here in New York. But man, Tomorrowland is definitely on the list. And my friend from high school is the founder of the Breakaway Festival, which is like mobile Coachella. So yeah, man, like one day when the kids are a little older and I have a little extra time, money, and bandwidth, maybe we'll get back to the rave scene. But enough about the microphone, enough about our dance parties. Your unique thing is t-shirts. You'll tell me all about that in a little while, but I think it's all kind of part of the culmination of the story, which is like, how do you build a personal brand? How do you kind of identify yourself in a market? There's lots of noise that's out here, and really, how do you stand out? But before we get into business, I always like to humanize this thing. Tell me a little bit about you, your human experience, what makes you unique.
The t-shirts is one, I would say.
It's true.
Just I think one of the things, at least that doesn't come from me, that I've just sort of heard over the years is people have mentioned that I sort of tell it like it is, whether the news is positive or negative. Try not to pull any punches. Try to give the real sort of picture of what it's like, not only to be an entrepreneur, but to be just somebody who's gets lonely as an entrepreneur, someone who gets anxious as an entrepreneur, but as you said, probably more so as a human. And I just generally never hold back. It's not as though I'm sharing the most intimate personal details about myself, but I'll definitely uh, go pretty far when I need to make a point, and I think that it's important to um, get people to listen. So yeah, first and foremost, just somebody who's exactly the same as offline, right? And I think that's you see a lot of online personas, and the biggest compliment you could ever receive, and I've ever received, is whenever I have first conversations with people, they're always like, "You're kind of exactly how I pictured you." I'm like, "Awesome." I'm like, "Good,
Yes.
that's how it should be." But unfortunately, it's not the majority of the time. So, yeah, I think that would be hopefully an adequate description.
I really like that. It's something I also pride myself on. You get kind of one version. I'm good at being a chameleon. I'm a good listener. A chameleon would probably be like the most accurate way to describe me. I show up in a room, I might have a little bit of social discomfort, even though I'm an extroverted person and a salesman at heart. Um, I definitely have to like find my way. I don't fit into every room that I end up in. But I pride myself on exactly what you said, which is like the version that you see on this show is the same version that my wife deals with, that my family deals with, that my friends know. And I didn't know really how to invent other versions of myself. I didn't know how to do that. It felt kind of yucky to like think about like, oh, what's this persona I need to live up to? And like lying, how do you keep up with it? Like how do you remember where you left off? So yeah, I rock with you. And like one of the things we'll unpack today is how do you build a personal brand? How do you keep evolving as an individual to continue to share your wisdom? And how do you remain kind of authentic in that whole thing? So before we kind of get into your formula, I'd love to know a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Where did that begin? Was that always something that like was on your mind? Did you go to work first like I did? Like, tell me a little bit about your story.
Sure. Um, I think as far as the entrepreneurial part of it, um, that probably goes back as far as I can remember, just in terms of I've always had a bit of an issue with authority, and not like a rebel, and I'm like mean to people or anything like that. It's just I always felt like, hey, I could do this on my own, or I'd like to try to do it on my own. So I've had bosses who were tyrants, and I've had really really nice bosses. In both cases, I always knew like I don't want to work for these people. So as far as the actual, business type stuff, I mean, I was doing stuff in college. Uh, I did like multi-level marketing, Melaleuca, like home
Right.
care products.
Hmm.
I started that my senior year. But um, it was really I had a few jobs out of college. This is in '01. And then I kind of settled into being a recruiter. So I was a recruiter for financial services. I did mainly Wall Street stuff, so it was investment banking and sales and trading. I did searches for like Goldman Sachs, UBS, clients like that, Commerce Bank at the time. Never liked it. Wasn't really for me. It's a very salesy job. Something they probably don't tell you. It's a lot of cold calling, relationship building, and all that. But good experience as far as learning that side of everything. But it was really like 2007. A buddy of mine just like he emailed me and he said, "You ever hear of this thing?" I'm like, "No." And it was Google Blogspot, which to anyone listening who's probably not as old as me, that's Google's blogging platform, which to my knowledge, actually, I think still exists. But I had always been like sort of creative. I actually started a website out of college on Yahoo GeoCities, which really
Wow.
dates me. Yeah.
It's back.
And that was like a blog before the word
Yeah.
blog existed. Um, I ran that for a few months. It was like out of my parents' house and just for fun. And then I learned WordPress, and I had this website called Uncoached, which was very similar to like a Barstool Sports. And it's interesting because I came up at the exact same time as like Dave Portnoy, right? But I was like a one man show, and the site grew very quickly. And so 9 months after it began, I quit my job. I was very lucky. But I also busted my ass and built relationships and built up backlinks, but everything sort of started accelerating when I started getting linked to by Sports Illustrated. So I did a lot of sports stuff, entertainment, comedy. So um, once that site started to do well, I started another one and another one and another one. And so eventually I had a business partner, and today that's 25 different websites. Like couple bring in the bulk of the revenue. I still run them today. Uncoached no longer exists. But yeah, so I was able to learn how to monetize traffic, learn how to generate a lot of traffic. At one point it was doing, 5, 10 million views a month. It's not quite as high as that anymore, but still pays the bills, which is pretty cool. I just luckily don't really focus on it much. It's probably hour a day
Mm.
these days. So it gives me a lot of time to focus on what I pretty much do full time these days, which is more of the personal branding and my other projects.
I love the story arc of just like being entrepreneurial. Often on the show, I'm interviewing entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing business owners and people that have inherited businesses or taken over. There's the original succession plan, and like there's one common thing amongst entrepreneurs, and it's really like the self advocate, the self starter, that curiosity, the insatiable appetite to build something. It's almost like a curse. I feel it too. Like I see something, I'm like, oh, I can make a business out of that. Like the discipline to not do it or to not half-ass it if you're gonna do it. And so that for me has been like a skill that I've had to really hone in over the years. I mean, the business that I run, you got to be focused on that at all times. A service-based business, like customers don't want to see that you're going off on tangents and building, 7 different companies on the side. So you have to do things very strategically. But I'm interested in like your story arc with entrepreneurship, because as of like what we see, like the public facing Nat Berman for today, it's very much personal brand. Are are you setting an example? Are you saying like, hey, this is the framework and I'm going to show you by doing? Is this like you built a personal brand to feed a business? Like, what was the point of the personal brand? And the reason why I bring this up is because there are multiple strategies that you can deploy about building a personal brand. So I'm interested, like, what was yours?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One, I've always liked to sort of be out there and motivate and inspire. I did stand up comedy like when I got out of college in the city, and I got a real rush, a real high out of doing that, and it was really cool. But ultimately, I didn't always want to like make people laugh. I think I wanted people to think and be sort of impacted by some of the things that I was saying. That actually stemmed from seeing a motivational speaker back when I was like in the corporate world, and I was like at a function, for a weekend or something, and they brought someone in. I couldn't tell you what he said to this day. I just remember how I felt, and it was like,
Mm.
wow, this is very cool. Um, I still haven't given my own yet, but that's on the docket for someday. Um, so yeah, it's as far as I've always kind of liked that side of it. I also like turning things into a game. Like, oh, can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And so it was 2019. Um, I already had experience like community building, and what I mean by that is just building a network of people, not necessarily like, oh, I have a million followers here, a million followers there. I just mean relationship building. So to grow my website, I got to know 100 other websites. We used to always link to each other, and exchange emails and all kinds of stuff. So I had this sort of like big like DM list back in the day for like
Hmm.
Gmail and all that. So I had experience with that. I also had a pretty large account on dig.com, which back then it was a very, very prevalent, it was bigger than Reddit. It was basically Reddit, but it was much bigger. And so like I learned how to sort of do all that stuff where it's like upvoting and commenting and all that kind of stuff. Like that's existed for a very long time. People just don't really realize it. And it goes back a pretty long way. So then I was like, okay, I don't know how the hell I got on LinkedIn and saw that people were creating content. But what I did notice was a lot of likes and comments. I was like, this is weird. Like, what is this? And I just kind of, I think I was scared to try YouTube because and I still am. I call it the beast. I do shorts on there, but that's it. And I don't think I was really turned on by Instagram or TikTok. LinkedIn just seemed interesting because I was like, okay, well, there's like professionals on here. And what if you can entertain and motivate those people?
Hmm.
So I really just started it as a can I do it sort of a thing. And I saw what everybody else was doing. I got a coach real fast. AC Abaki, wherever you are, thank you. She's not even active on LinkedIn anymore, but I think her husband still is. Uh,
Amazing.
and I sort of learned the game. And LinkedIn was very, very different back then. I actually didn't even get in when it was sort of like the old West, like 2017 and 18. It was pretty much very similar in terms of reach as TikTok. Like early days, you post anything, you get 100,000 views. 200,000 views. LinkedIn was like that. I got in at the very back end of that. So 2019. And I just began posting videos in my backyard off the cuff, talking for 2 minutes about stuff I wanted to talk about, literally. And it was just mostly related to being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
mostly related to the fact that there were like a million 20-year-old coaches popping up. And I
Right.
used to
Right.
like
Like, what do you know?
rip about that. And I wasn't mean, but I was like, hey man, like if you don't have any experience, it's kind of hard to say you're an expert or this. And I'd hire a 20-year-old in a second if I thought they can help me. Right. But for the most part, it there wasn't a lot of doing out there and it wasn't a lot of proof. So I started growing pretty quickly. And then so it was like, I don't know, 25,000 followers or something like that in like 9 months. And PS, I had no business intention. There was no like right now, if I were to go into something like this, I'd have a much more specific plan. But for this, it was like, can I do it? Because I still had the websites and all that stuff. So this was kind of just like a side project. However, one thing I will say to any entrepreneur that's listening is if your gut tells you something, and what I mean by that is it's not anything, but I always have these weird like hunches every couple of years and I always like act on them, even if it's in a small way. And what I mean by these hunches is like in the website game, sometimes SEO is up, sometimes it's down. Sometimes you could do well with paid traffic, sometimes you can't. And there would always be these cyclical events that would happen in the website game where it just something told me like, try something else, do something else while you have the time. I bring that up because the same thing happened in LinkedIn when they started killing reach, right? And I started noticing that a long time ago. So instead of just sitting on it, I acted on it. Anyway, so LinkedIn grew, and what happened organically was people started sending me DMs like, "Do you do coaching? Do you do coaching?" Da, 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 da.
Mm, mm,
And so I hired another coach to help me with that and start that kind of a practice. And I just started coaching people and it was pretty miserable. I didn't love it. I didn't charge a lot. I did get a cool sense of um validation when people would get results from the things I would, teach them and whatnot. But it was just sort of on and off for like a year and a half. And then I didn't take a hiatus, but I wasn't very active on LinkedIn for a little while. Like I still had stuff go up, but it was just I didn't comment a lot. I wasn't like insane Nat, like and a lot of people knew. So then it was like 2022, and I sold one of my biggest websites, and that was a good moment. And it gave me a little bit of flexibility in terms of time and finances and all that. And so I was like, I see all these new people on LinkedIn. What the hell's going on? And I got the competitive side of me was like, I could do that. So that's when I kind of went really all in on LinkedIn, and things really took off from there. I grew pretty quickly, started doing slideshows because that's what was working.
Sure.
I came up doing all videos on LinkedIn. I couldn't stand doing slideshows, but it worked. So I was like, all right, I'll keep doing it. And eventually, LinkedIn has evolved over the years. And it's funny because I ended up doing like the selfie game for probably 2 years. And then the reach started going down. That didn't really work much anymore. I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go back to what I was doing, videos. And I'm getting more impressions than I ever have. Like it's very bizarre. I don't know if it's bizarre, but it's interesting. Um, yeah, I just feel like LinkedIn always knew my account as a video account. I'm convinced that every account is different. We're all unique snowflakes, and somehow you get characterized. It's like being typecast or something. And somehow, when I went back to video, it didn't take long. It was like 2-3 weeks, and I just started to see some generosity in terms of the views, and the shares started to follow. And it seems like almost every week now I have something that kind of pops off a little bit, which is great. Um, anyway, I know that was long winded, but yeah.
Well, it's a great segue because I'm kind of interested in your formula. People often say to me, how do you come up with fresh content on a daily basis? I record every single day. I push content 10 times a day, all day long. Where do you get the inspiration for the next thing you're going to talk about? And so I ask you, because I'm like, well, how does this guy stay unique? He's got a wardrobe change for every word that comes out of his mouth. It doesn't feel like you're pushing anything. It just feels like, well, where'd you get this moment of wisdom to be able to share with everybody? But it's not just like Nat's vomiting on people with like your high and mighty.
Verbal diarrhea.
Yeah, it really is like were you peering into other people's brains to feel the difficulty that they're going through or the turmoil that they're experiencing? Like, where are you getting inspired to come up with fresh content every day and stay motivated to create it? Like, what is is the high the likes, comments, reach? Is the high financial? Is the high the freedom to own your own brand? So like, I have just questions about building this whole formula, and so many people do. So why not uncover it?
Sure. Yeah, good question. I mean, as far as idea generation, I think that stems back to my blog writing days, right? So when I started websites back in '07, I was writing anywhere from 30 to 50 articles a day. And when I say that, I don't mean like every article was 5,000 words.
Sure, right.
Back in the day, blogging, you could do 250 words, but it's still a lot of writing. It was just
Yeah.
all day. And my first 2-3 years, it was, 15 hours a day. It was just, that's all I was doing was writing. But I've always had the ability to sort of see something, take a topic, and then find something interesting from it. Like, this sounds very it sounds almost like so normal for today, but there was a time when, you know the 20 best mustaches in movies, right? Like that, there was someone who did that first, right? And like then it just became mainstream, and it was very, very normal. But back in '07, '08, I used to have a lot of original titles for my articles, and it didn't come from AI because that didn't exist. It came
Right.
from me. But I
Right.
was like, oh, you know what? That song sounds really cool in this moment in this movie. Let me find another 10 of those. So 10 of the coolest uses of songs in movies, right? Stuff like that. And I just was obsessed with coming up with all these interesting titles. Um, and again, this goes back to when I was a kid. Luckily, I've always been a creative writer, so I think part of that just sort of bleeds into this. But it's also just that, like, the acknowledgement that anything can be content is very important, right? And like, so many people think to themselves, nobody's going to like this, nobody's going to like that, nobody's going to like this, nobody's going to like that. No, that's completely untrue. you don't know what anyone's going to like or
That's
not
right.
like. Every time you press publish, you don't freaking know if it's going to do well or not. You have no clue, which is
Right.
why you should press publish. Because you don't know. I've been doing this almost 20 years and I still don't freaking know what's going to do well. Yeah, I have an idea. And I try to capitalize when something does do well. I'll iterate 5 different times off that same thing to try and, beat the system or whatever. Even though you're not beating the system, you're just doing what works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so part of it's a game. I'm very motivated in that regard. I'm a competitive guy. I love that stuff. Um, so definitely part of it. But idea generation today, you don't have an excuse. Today there's AI. Sorry, guys, you don't have an excuse for not doing content. No, you don't need to copy AI word for word and copy and paste everything. But like, why not go into AI and say, here's who I am. This is the kind of person I am. Motivated guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I really want to start a series on entrepreneurship. I want to cover the following 5 topics. Can you come up with 50, podcast titles? Right? Like, why not use those or iterate on them? So you don't have to be that creative these days. For me personally, it was always just like, I'm pretty good at remembering something that just like happened at a moment that was impactful. I'm like, all right, I'm going to talk about that.
Mm.
And that means millions of things. It's just most people don't think that or realize that. Like shit, I did posts about peeing sitting down as a male. Like, it was just so random, but I related it to how it saves time at night and you get more sleep. Like, it's very weird, but it's funny. So I just think of these random wacko things, but things that I remember that are important. But it also gets personal. I'm a very anxious person. I've sort of battled anxiety for many, many years. And I think that's important. Right. It's definitely, when it comes to content creation and ideation, it's just living, man. It's just like living. I don't know how else to explain it. But it's like I said again, it's the acknowledgement that anything you sort of remember and makes you feel, it's probably going to make someone else remember and feel. Therefore, it is likely good to be content. Um, but obviously, and we can get into what that content is used for, forever. Cause like, you could either entertain, you could educate, you could this, you could that, you could add a CTA at the end, you could use it for business, you could use it, which I'm sure we'll get into. But anyway, so yeah, I don't think there's one singular process for creating something or having an idea for something. I think it's as long as you realize that anything is game, you're never going to run out of ideas.
I think the hard part for a lot of people, and I give this encouragement often, is that a lot of people don't have a shortage of things to say. They have a fear of pushing play. They have a fear of publish, right? Or a lot of people are in a full-time job and like their job is not really so psyched about them participating in social media. There's lots of barriers to entry. And I think it's not really for everybody. This is why there's only like what's the statistic? Like only 5% of consumers are creators. There's like such a skew in the amount of people that actually create the content versus those that consume it. And so the ones that are brave enough to actually put their stuff out there, and I say brave because like when you do it the first time, you sweat. You're like, oh shit, like is this, and who cares, right? Like at the end of the day, like who actually gives a shit? Who's listening? And so my grandfather used to always tell me, be yourself. You'll never see these people again. Well, today that's different from 1995 because you might not have ever seen that person again in 1995. Today, I'll just see you in the feed tomorrow. So a little bit of a different strategy, but I think, people are always a little bit timid, not because they have a shortage of things to say, but because they're concerned about shipping the thing. So,
They're also afraid of criticism.
of course, yeah,
People
the
are
feedback, will people like
people are
me?
people are vain, myself
Yeah,
included. You look at yourself in the mirror, you don't want to be looked at in a poor way. It's funny how you see so many people saying, "I don't care what I look like online." I'm like, "Yeah, you do. Otherwise,
yeah,
you
yeah,
wouldn't
of
be online."
course.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
But you do the best you can to deal with that feeling and sort of roll with it. So people are afraid of failure. They're afraid of criticism. That's always going to exist. So there is always going to likely be a shortage of creators just because of those two things.
You said something that like resonates with me on a personal level. I really like don't talk about it very often because you have to I respond to more things than I speak about proactively. But one of the things that you said that I can relate to significantly is this like anxiety experience, especially around entrepreneurship and like just existing as a man and trying to fit into the world. And like I definitely have had my battles with anxiety over the years. And as an entrepreneur, anxiety comes from toiling, like sitting patiently and letting the things that you've built do the work. And lots of times entrepreneurs are not comfortable to just like sit in the moment and just be patient and be better listeners. And I'm definitely guilty of that. And so I am envious of those entrepreneurs that are out there that are not on social media. They do absolutely no marketing and they run $50 million businesses,
Yeah, me
$250
too,
million.
man.
Like, dude, like that's a different breed in itself. And like, I'm very curious always when I meet those types of people. It's especially like in like maybe like the manufacturing sector, like labor and boring businesses are really good at this, where it's just about do the work. It maybe is about a strong referral network or just being recognized for the thing that you build in the world. Like, man, am I envious of those entrepreneurs that don't toil. They like are not on social media. So that is not a way to use their time. And so for me, anxiety kind of runs that urge to continuously put out more stuff to like, is this the thing that's going to pop off? Is this the call to action that's going to drive business for us? Like everything is done with a means to the end. You try to figure out how to remain as authentic as possible. But one of the things that I really like about what you have built is it does not feel like there's a call to action. And there often is intentionally at the end of a video. If you like what you heard, visit X, Y, and Z. We'll talk about that. But the bulk of the content, it just feels like you and me are having a conversation. Like I woke up this morning and you're in my head and you're like, you said something that resonates with me. And so there is definitely an art and a science to all of this. I'm getting better at it. But I mean, raise your hand if you're watching this and you have anxiety about either creating, shipping, toiling, you just don't know what to do with your hands late at night. Like lots of this is just propelling people to put stuff out there, but is it of quality and is it of substance and is it driving to a goal? And so I want to tell a little bit of a story. You and I, along with my business partner and your business partner, met some time ago because you guys had this great idea about building a community on the back of a learning management system and like building a community to monetize because you guys had this big network and you wanted to bring people together and offer the next version of value after social media. Like social media is just like this little blip, but like I want a session with Nat to get myself to my goals and do that one-on-one thing. And so I'm really interested in the business that you built. And you and I haven't connected in quite some time. So I wonder, what do you have going on and how does what you're doing as, personal brand Nat feeding your business? Like what is the value of the funnel that you've created?
Sure. Um, I've gone through a lot of iterations and things in terms of what I want out of a business and life and all that kind of stuff. So, I met my business partner a couple of years ago. We started this thing, Brand Built, which was the community, and went through just so many different iterations of it, price points, the program itself, and all that kind of stuff. And we sort of decided that eventually that we were going to do something a lot simpler. Brand Build still exists and it will always exist as a more of a, I guess you could say, a higher ticket offering.
Hmm.
At, early, some months ago, my mother passed away. This is October. And for some reason, this phrase like was always in my head that maybe when she passed away, maybe months after. And the phrase was be better. And I just always liked it. It reminded me of like my coach in high school who was like, no excuses, get it done. It's one of my mottos, but I love the phrase be better. And I was like, all right, I already have experience running a community. How about I run something that's dirt cheap and really simple? Because from what I've learned from community building is that A, people lose interest in communities very quickly. Two, the reason for that is because it's like, how much can you really learn? Right? That's one of the reasons. It's also a lot of work to retain people. So I had this idea. I was like, well, why not just do something where we just like send people a rep every single day? Like, that's it. Just something to do that makes you more consistent, that builds habits, that just makes you better. Just that's it. Be better. Right. And so we created this community, custom on, GHL. It looks kind of like school. And started it this January. Mm, And it's only $1. It's
Mm,
$1. It's $1 a month. And you get your daily rep every day. It's either delivered to your inbox or you go into the community. And it's very simple stuff, kind of like, make sure you drink 16 ounces of water before you start work today. And that's it, right? Because I think one thing I've learned about humans is like, they don't want too much. They just
right.
don't. I don't.
Little
And so
microdose.
we started that. And initially to get members, um, I was just DMing people, on like LinkedIn and here's what I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. But when I saw that LinkedIn started not doing as well traffic wise, I was like, well, I got to find some other areas here. And I gravitated towards Instagram. Another common thread here, I hired a coach. I always hire somebody if I don't know something. And I got very lucky on Instagram. I think I got very lucky. They may say something different, but whatever. But I went into this thing being like, it's going to be 6 months of shit. It's going to be 6 months of hell. I'm not going to get any views. I'm not going to get anything. No. And I got very lucky. Within 3 weeks, something really, really did well. Then after that, I had like my first million view video. And then I decided to iterate off of that one video and things just went nuts. And so that was October. I just crossed 200,000 the other day. And the engagement's great. And I'm just not going to change a damn thing. I'm just going to keep going and keep going. But then eventually I learned how to do things like automations. So that's why you hear me say, if this resonated with you, check out my newsletter, comment the word newsletter, right? And so anytime someone comments newsletter, they then get a message back that I don't have to do that says, here's the link you requested. And I only do 2 CTAs. It's one for the newsletter or one for the community directly. And so we're now at 386 as of today and haven't really done much beyond that. And what's nice is now that's going to get replicated because my partners are now working on their social media brands, have not put any money into this in terms of advertising. Don't know if I ever even really want to do that. I'm old school. I printed out 1,500 cards that say be better. And there's like an address on the back. I literally just like hand them out. I'm just started doing it. It makes me nervous as hell to do it, but I do it. It's like trick or treating. And my vision is to get like 50 people in 50 different cities just handing out cards and having conversations with people and saying, how can you be better? Making videos of it, documenting it, putting it on TikTok, blah, blah, blah. Just like that School of Hard Knocks guy or whatever.
Love it.
Like,
James Doolan.
I would love to do something like that. These are all future endeavors. But so right now the business makes like no money. It's $386 a month. And I have no intention of upselling, but my intention is to grow the better brand because that's universal. Be better at this, be better at that, be better. I mean, it's forever, right? It's almost like WeWork. Hopefully not the same fate as WeWork, but like it's like, and we're also involved in AI. So like, I think our first project will be like, be better at AI integration into your business, right? And then
Sure.
when you push something like that, but that to me is we'd have to be at a minimum of 1,000 members to even think about expanding. And I think one of the things that I'm not going to do the mistake that we made with communities is, and PS, entrepreneurs make this mistake all the time. Soon as one thing works, what do? You try another thing.
Yep.
Wrong, wrong, wrong. You need to maximize whatever that one thing is, run it into the ground until it doesn't work anymore, or just keep going and keep going and keep going, then do something else. So one of the issues we had with our initial community was that we just kept doing more shit. And I think it was like turning off members because like what was working was initially we were just doing these calls like once every week. That was like it. Then it was like all these courses and this and that, and all this stuff. So to me, the reason Be Better keeps growing right now, it's the same thing. It's just 1 rep a day. That's all we ask of you. Just do 1 rep a day. And obviously the retention is high because it's $1, but I think it's also high because it's so freaking easy to do and it sort of brings everybody together. Also, I think you have to look at a business from your own personal perspective. Like, what do you want out of it? I don't want to be doing like lectures all the time. I would like it to be pseudo async if possible. I kind of like to be in control. And so, you know, if I want to get out there and do a talk, I'll like do a talk. And I mean my own talk, put it together myself. I don't mean like, yes, I do outreach and I try to speak at schools and all those kinds of things, but that's like for shits and giggles, right? Like as far as the business itself, like I've never done a live before, ever.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna do my first live next week on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
I'm not even gonna promote it. I'm just gonna do it just to see how it feels. Same thing with like TikTok. And this is where like you're mixing old school with new school, right? And like for me, old school is the cards. Old school is the knowledge that nothing ever beats one-to-one conversations. And that's the thing that's very intimidating today is like it's as hard to get a person to spend $1 a month as it is like 1,000. It really is. And most people will say, well, why don't you just, do 1,000? And I'm like, because I've done that. I've coached, I've done one-to-one. It's very taxing. It's very stressing. And I'm 47 years old. Not that I'm an old dude, but I have been working a while and I kind of slowing down is not the right word. I want to do more of like what I want to do because I have that opportunity right now, right? I've got some runway. I can take many years if I need to. So like why, and I'm not saying why hustle because I hustle when I need to, but I'm saying why put myself through things that I don't want to do necessarily. Um, by the way, don't get me wrong. If there's a goal I have and I've got to do a lot of things that I don't want to do to get there, I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Sure.
Right? Like I send outreach emails to high schools. Like I don't want to do that. I don't feel like pitching myself at getting older and saying like, hey, I've kind of established myself. I shouldn't have to do that anymore. Wrong. You always have to promote yourself and market yourselves. Anyway, that's the business I'm running right now. Like I said, it's more like a movement than a business, and I don't know if it's even going to be a business for a while. Again, it's called Be Better, and it's just thebebettermovement.com if anyone's listening and is interested in doing something like that. So yeah, it's weird, man. It's been a very, very long journey and I have no clue where this is going to go or where it's going to end up, but I just don't see myself ever wanting to slow down at any time. I'm not into like retirement. That's not for me yet. It's just you just kind of living and doing things in a weird kind of way.
You said something that well, you said quite a few things. Well, I'll try to unpack them from memory. One of those things is, it is as hard to leverage $1 out of somebody's pocket as it is 1,000, as it is 10,000. It is just an estimation of value. And so expect to get $1 worth of value. And hopefully you're giving somebody, $100 worth of value for $1. That's kind of the goal. But it is as hard to get $1 out of somebody's pocket as it is $10,000. It's just a matter of what is the thing that you're actually trying to convey or sell. And so I resonate with that incredibly. What we did in our business recently was we went more of the commoditized route for a little while. And because it worked, man, like I took your advice. Like your advice was like, if the thing is working, don't try something else. Just beat that thing into the ground until it's not working anymore. And there's a couple of ways to measure something's not working. You're either like emotionally not in love with it anymore. The business is just not acquiring that thing anymore, whatever that is. The market shifts. You've exhausted a territory. Lots of different reasons as to why intelligently you should consider pivoting. One of the things that we did is come away from that commoditized experience, like that low ticket item, trying to fit every small business and just trying to go for the volume game, to what do I want to be known for? And like, I built this business to be known for absolute expertise. Like my business is the business that you call on your absolute worst day with your software. And like, I'm the guy that fixes your shit. It's a very different thesis than like, hey, I need a little marketing website for my small business and my budget is $1,000. I've done both of those sides. And so it really is like a measurement of effort and labor and what do you want to be known for? And like I have covered that spectrum in my business, but the reason why we shifted was I was no longer passionate about the thing that was working like a crazy person. I was passionate about what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want to be known for in this market? How do I want to differentiate myself in the age of AI where I'm being undercut by every dollar because somebody could just go vibe code it in a weekend and it kind of, it devalues the absolute mastery that we have created here in our business. So we said, fuck it, we're going the other way. And I'm the guy that you call if you're the IRS to parachute in when something's broken. And so different, totally different. And like we departed from the thing that was working to say, hey, the thing that we hope works only has to work once a year. And you have a very successful organization. I'd literally be one-to-one from a revenue perspective. And so lots of different reasons. And I loved what you said just about leveraging a dollar out of somebody's pocket is as hard as it's just a measurement of value. You also said something really nice, which is you want to go around and like physically hand out these cards and like do the School of Hard Knocks. I'm a big fan of James Doolin. I just think like the way that you can infiltrate somebody's brain and make a 30-second friend and get to the essence of them, man, that is like a repetition based skill. Like it didn't start that way. And I've been watching him since inception. Like I was like follower number 100 on LinkedIn. Now he's like exploded. It's insane. But you said something really cool, which I practice in real life. My business card is a QR coded $2 bill, like no bullshit, full. First thing I did is I made an investment in our relationship. And the second thing I did is put some luck in your pocket. Call me if that makes any sense to you. And so that works, man. Like that guerrilla style of marketing, it's like just something happens in your brain as the recipient of that. And it like breaks down the barrier. So I love what you said. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because somebody's listening here and has an idea of like, should I go do that? Should I go out into my local shopping center? Should I go door knocking? I mean, man, my wife was my original door-to-door solicitation sales coach. And like I had no idea she would end up as my wife, but like there's something to be said about hand-to-hand combat, about going out, coming up with something unique, standing out in the world and leaving a lasting impression. And you really hit it if you can capture that moment and create some authentic content out of that. So there are people that are thinking about doing this. You and me did not rehearse this. This is just kind of the way in a world of content fodder. How do you stand out and differentiate yourself? And being human to human is certainly a way. Now, you built a community where like monetizing the community doesn't really feel like it was actually part of the goal. It was more like, I'm going to build this thing as part of this brand because the brand lives forever. And whatever you decide to get yourself into will always come back into that reach, that audience. And like, no matter what, you are not starting from actual zero, from like absolute zero. And that's also what I tell myself too about building the brand, building the show, building the business. Like I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is like one of the first businesses, I've had a couple, but this is one of the first businesses that are truly successful and I'll have many more, but none of them will be as hard as this one was, starting from absolute zero, transitioning from a full-time career with like no experience as an entrepreneur, leveraging the house, doing all the things with debt that you shouldn't do, making all the bad choices about building a business. And like, here we are. I'll never have to start from absolute zero again, or at least I hope I won't. So I really resonate with the idea of like, just build a thing because you're passionate about it. It's what we did with the Long Island Technologists. I just bring people together every 45 days for free, forever, just to get people to vibe together. And magic happens from that. Business happens from that. Hiring happens from that. Relationships, like love affairs and relationships have happened from that. Like, it's not really always about how do I make the dollar. It's more about how do I make the impact. And so that's a big thing that I get from you. And when you have that mission of like, how do I just make impact? Well, if you kept your thing at $1 a month, but you have 1 million members across the globe, well, you made $1 million a month. And that's like the type of scale that is possible, especially on the back of a brand. Like if you took just your Instagram following, 200K you just crossed, and every single one of those people gave you $1, you'd be just fine. And so that's kind of the goal. And like, I'm inspired by the way that we're using our personal brands, you specifically, because it is just a part of the foundation. It is always something. If the next thing that you want to build, you'll always have this audience that you can bounce an idea off of and catch quick validation. And dare I say, fail fast. As entrepreneurs, the data that I want is this isn't going to work. So stop now. Don't take out a loan. Don't find an investor. Don't go and bet the house on it. Like, fail as fast as possible. And what a great way from a validated audience. And so, as we round third base, man, I often ask my guests, because these conversations can often, go in a million different directions. And the last thing that I want is for you to leave the discussion and say, I wish we would have talked about that. So, putting you in the hot seat, what comes to mind for our last little bit here?
Well, since the topic we've been talking about is personal branding, I guess I would want people to understand that a personal brand today is I look at it as a shield of armor, right?
Mm,
You're building up an insurance policy on yourself. But the other thing that I can't stress enough is and I did this too late. I did this way too late. Is and this is not new advice, but I think it's important to say nonetheless, which is you want to retain as many people as you can. People always call it own your audience. And what that means, obviously, is you shift the audience from whatever platform you're on to your own platform. So that could be a newsletter, it could be a community, whatever it is. Get on that shit from day one. Anybody who tells you, oh, I can't start a newsletter because I only have 500 followers, why not?
right.
What if you have 500 followers and they're all multimillionaires willing to invest with you? Come on, man. It's all about the right audience. So that is a very, very important thing. But along the same lines is, well, it's kind of hard to get people into your funnels unless you're actually being seen, which means we talked about this even before this call or this podcast, which is um, you shouldn't necessarily be wedded to one platform
Right.
because that platform can take away your reach overnight. It has
Hmm.
happened. It will happen. It's inevitable. This is how social media platforms run. So unless you start your own social media platform, just get ready to play by their rules. And their rules always change. Typically, a social media platform cycle is very simple. They get out there in front of as many people as possible. Usually that's through advertising if they're backed, right, by a lot of money. What do they do initially? They give you a ton of reach. That's what gets people on the platform. You post one thing, you get viewed 100,000 times. Hell, you don't even know if you're getting viewed 100,000 times. You just
Right.
see the number and you're
That's the
like,
number.
ooh, I got
Yeah.
viewed 100,000 times,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But it better be real, because if it's not, it'll be found out sooner than later. So I think on TikTok that was legit, right? Like people were getting a ton of views.
Yep.
Um, and then what happens is eventually, uh, that amount of view count is used to drive subscribers. It's
Hmm.
used to drive up that count. And so then once they hit whatever, a million users, 10 million, 100 million, then all of a sudden they start pulling back on reach a little bit. Why? Because then you have to pay to play, right? And once around that pay to play part exists, organic traffic becomes a lot harder to come by. So you can do one of two things. You can start paying to play, which is fine. I think that's an inevitable future. I think that you're going to have to learn how to do paid advertising. There's no question. Um, I'm fortunate enough where in terms of my personal branding stuff, I don't do any paid advertising, but I I know I'm going to have to at some point. But then the other option also is to learn other social media platforms. You and I talked about this. When the reach on
Yep.
LinkedIn went down, I immediately went towards Instagram. It seemed like a fit. There were people that I knew who knew what they were doing. So that was another reason, because it's like, I want to learn from the right people. And it was also universal in the sense that, like, it was the closest thing I could find to like what works on Instagram, kind of works on TikTok. It kind of works on YouTube shorts. So I'm lazy. So it's like, I want to create a video that's a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I don't have to do any more than that. So I want to post it here, post it there, post it here, post it there. The only platforms I treat differently are Twitter and Threads. I just do
Hmm.
like these little text posts, and those platforms don't get me anything anyway. So the only thing I could foresee changing in the future, assuming the platforms don't change all that much, is like Maybe one day I'll go after YouTube. Maybe. I don't know. But frankly, I don't want to. I don't want to. But if all of a sudden Instagram shits the bed, which it very well could, I'm going to be forced to diversify again. So that's one thing I would say to people is, again, I'm not saying try a bunch of different things. I'm saying diversify on that one thing. So it's like everything is geared towards be better for me. Everything. But that doesn't mean I'm using multiple, I'm not using multiple channels to get to that point, right? And so, yeah, I think those are some key things to leave people with.
I like the advice, and it's advice that I deploy myself, is just be like super curious about what exists out there. My grandfather is an original ad man, just like Madison Avenue ad man. And the way that you would get yourself seen back in the 50s, there was always something new. The introduction of like painted billboards on brick buildings or magazine spreads, or at the advent of television, there was the commercial, radio was introducing. Like there's always something new. And today it's like the introduction of like Blue Sky or Mastodon or Discord or make a Slack community or whatever, right? Like I think just generally being curious about avenues of omni-channel advertising. Where can you catch distribution? Being early to a channel is also really great. Just experiment. Like if this is your game, if this is your business, I mean, I did say I'm envious of those businesses that don't have to do any advertising at all, but that's not most of us. Most of us really do need to be out there and have our ideas and our products and services and solutions actually be thoughtful. And so I like that wisdom, which is just generally back to your ethos, which is be better, stay curious, right? Just don't say, oh, it's not for me. Like, how could it be for me? Why would it be valuable to my business? Maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about the audience that lives on that platform, and my content is better suited to reach and impact more people. And so the me is the part that we all need to exclude, the me part, that ego. Right. And I think when we're out here, and that's why I vibe a lot with the content you create, because it doesn't feel like me. It's very, very infrequent that you use I, me. It's more of a we, it's a you, it's a collective experience. And so I really like that. And I like the advice to just stay curious and test all these platforms and do all of that good stuff. So now we'll have to find some time to get together. We're like a stone's throw away here on Long Island, but we'll certainly find some time. But I appreciate you rocking with me on this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, man.
No problem. It was fun to be here, man.
It's
Thanks.
absolutely a pleasure. I wish you forward to extraordinary.
Thank you.